Good morning, my name is Aaron Lucy. I am a Abertay University student with the ID number of 2103378, and today I'll be presenting the Notification Nullifier application for Android mobile devices. What is Notification Nullifier? For short, it is called Notif Null, and is the Android software design application programmed using Kotlin and extendable markup language to form features, functions, layouts, and data storing. It helps users to stop notifications from appearing on their mobile phone. Its purpose is to help avoid distractions, dependence, addiction, and obsession towards devices. It is designed to allow people to avoid distractions themselves on their phones most of the time during work. There are two primary features it has that can provide user service: the button's notification listener and airplane mode. Notification listener is an extendable markup language (XML) format button that uses the Kotlin function open notification listener settings to send the user to the notification settings, where the user can organize what application notification they want turned off manually. The other feature is airplane mode, allowing network communication to be turned off, therefore no notifications will appear unless it's about the system itself. Just like notification listening, airplane mode sends the user directly to connection settings to remotely turn it on, using the function open plane mode settings, including the start activity function as shown in the slide. The functions are called what the button is being pressed by the user. The function and the XML button lays out the connection through the view variable contained as a parameter in the function. These functions are located within the Kotlin file main activity within the class main activity. This is an Android 11 Google Pixel phone that I'll be using for our demonstration. We first open up the application called Notif Null. Once it is open, a pop-up is to be expected, titled Permission Required. To use this app, it needs permission to access the user's system settings. Would you like to continue? The user will click OK. Pressing cancel will still direct you to the home page. However, you can simply exit the app yourself if you do not wish to continue. It's clear the test statements are contrasting the background colors, allowing the user to read Welcome Guest, Notif Null, and the buttons Notification Listener and Airplane Mode. The user will now demonstrate what the function does and where it goes. The user comes to the notification settings. For airplane mode, it takes you to the connection settings, where airplane mode is there, waiting to be switched on or off. Going back to the home page. If you go back to the home page, there is a hamburger icon at the top left corner of the page, and it will display three different boxes: the home page, login, and registration. Let's register a new user. The user will now register. The user will now attempt to log in. Once the user has successfully logged in, they're taken back to the home page where it appears to be no change. However, once you open the top left menu, there is a new button that has appeared, Navigation Logout. A message appears at the top welcoming and addressing the chosen username. The Logout button also appears in the middle of the home screen, along with the other two buttons. After clicking Logout, the user is taken back to the home screen with the login and the registration buttons. That is the end of the demonstration. Within the class relation diagram displays a structure of how the pages and Kotlin class communicate with each other. What are they connected to? The SQLite database, or DB help, is a class Kotlin file that contains Kotlin code for a database. This database holds users' information and as displayed in the diagram, both login and register pages are connected. This is because of the fact that the registration page is what signs up new users, and the new private information is stored into the Kotlin file database. You can also see the manual XML and theme XML are two extendable markup languages files connected to the other main page files and to the function main activity. Other files don't seem to appear, like Android manifest XML, which runs all the code from the app file to the device. Without this file, the program would not be able to run. Build Gradle kits contains the dependencies implementations. The start of development, it was difficult to set up, but after using artificial intelligence resources ChatGPT and Gemini to guide me and help me to understand how the structure of Kotlin works, it made things simpler towards finishing the first prototype of Native Null. Starting with the layout, the page design structure was similar to that of HTML formats of markup languages. Instructions on how to format an XML were given and followed, starting with the draw layout, along with its characteristics, Android ID, Android layout width, and Android layout height. I had to keep changing from drawer layout and constraints layout as they were conflicting with the navigation functions in main activity. Within the function is another one that starts the activity, or the function to locate to the notification listener settings. These functions and features are supported by import Android service notification listener service, Android service notification, status bar notification, Android content intent, and Android provider settings. This is within a Kotlin class as an object-oriented function program. This defines the button within the page. Airplane mode button follows a similar approach to the notification listener settings. It is an object-oriented program function that defines the airplane mode feature in the Native Null application. The second discussion is on the pages. These pages are structured from XML file, extensible markup language, forming the layout of the home page, the background color, and the inclusion of the button and the burger icon menu. The primary pages are the activity main XML, activity register XML, activity login XML, all important files to being for the logging in users. These pages are accessed through the menu burger icon in the top right corner of the home page screen, within the gray bar at the top. How this works is the menu is in a separate XML file and used throughout the whole application on every page. The structure of the page is edited within the XML format feature. For example, the Android ID created an identity for the feature. The Android ID at +ID/nav homepage will link with any of the Kotlin class files and be used anywhere throughout the application files. However, it does need to be addressed within strings XML to be identified as a string variable and used as ID throughout the pages. Finally, the third discussion is the registration and login. These are very complex programs, but they are used to create new users and log on here users of these apps. They were included for future features and exclusive to users. However, features such as automatic turn on for the do not disturb button or turning off notifications, then getting close to the university or workplace. The registration is operated from the registry Kotlin file, supported by several different libraries from import Android content, intent to DB help, the database that stores the accounts. A Kotlin class is made to store the operating function, values, and the programming. Several private late init variables are called and made for organizing online registration. The variables called and described with the same IDs as the ones from the layout pages for username, email, password, and register button, all called to the ID address within the activity registry XML. Registry button is set to listen to input forms the user for username, email, and password values that were set. If any of the values were empty, the user cannot go forward, and the message will appear, "Please enter all fields." However, if they contain the data, if moved to the next line of code, the line value presented in registration is registered, which collects the input data from the user and posts it to the database and displaying the message "registration successful." If it doesn't include any data, the registration will fail to add the information to the database. Once the information has been sent from the registration Kotlin class file, it moves to the SQLite database called dbhelp. That this application can be of use to some people programming Kotlin functions to send the user to the settings marking use of functions that are already on the system that does what the app is supposed to help people with. Block or turn off notifications. The idea and motive behind the work on this project is necessary to people suffering of addiction. In addition, the registration and login in of the users who wish to become user members for this application, connecting to the database and demonstrating security mechanisms like hashing to keep users' passwords secure. The design of the pages is smooth and tidy with no usability issues. However, the application is lacking with some functionality. There are only 2 features available for this application and is only an alternative route to accessing the system settings, airplay mode, and notification listening. These are not complex systems and they cannot easily be accessed. The user can manually go directly to the settings themselves. Following the program, it is currently based in the program is complex and repetitive in some files as displayed on the screenshot. During the demonstration, there was another menu identified in the top right as a repeated program to the other menu settings in the top left. This is clearly programmable mistakes, but can be unsatisfactory to see if the program layouts with some errors. Finally, is the use of the accounts. There's not any difference between the guest homepage and the user account homepage. For future development, the user account has to have more functionality, more usability, and creativity. There's no profile or any pages to change data and capture private information that can't be removed from the system, so possible dangers if the login system is not fully developed. #SHA256 can help provide small security to the passwords. In conclusion, the Notif null has satisfactory features such as the 2 buttons that support in turning off notifications from social media. The password and the hashing helps the application have security when signing up new users. However, because of these are the only features presented, there appears to be it's not so usable and eventually become a redundant application that becomes unnecessary to the user. However, what can be added into the future for continuous development is the inclusion of navigations, more buttons organized to help users be supported in more features to include in the logged in page. Resources I used to access during the development of this application and this presentation. That is all from me. My name is Aaron Lucy. I thank you for listening. Goodbye.